Hello friends, foes, and other watchers on the internet. My name is Matt, and this is Joe, and we are back for the second episode of DM Talk.
DM Talk?
Yes. Two.
Episode 2.
Indeed. And we're going to follow up on a comment on our first one. It was a question asking how to make encounters exciting without having them just straight up combat. And I think we both have had some experience with this. I like
with variety in encounters. You mean?
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. So it's
we
not.
We also have had very interesting Dungeons and Dragons encounters.
Right. Exactly. That were exciting, and didn't.
We are talking about. Oh, we're talking about game encounters.
Yes.
I mean, I've had plenty of encounters that don't always involve combat.
Oh, me too. You know, that grocery store was. That got close, but.
Now I'm actually curious.
I was making it up. Don't worry.
Okay.
We didn't talk about what we're talking about before we were talking about it, so I'm making stuff up and it's making him nervous. So here we go.
I thought that would be fun.
Yeah, it is
I'm
fun.
not nervous.
All right, so
But before we do that, we need to give you like a moment to shine after hitting 1,000 subscribers on your channel.
Insert glowing effect here. Thank you very much. I've already given you the thank yous for the year in my Thanksgiving video, but they still keep coming, and next year I'm sure I'll have maybe
more than 1,000.
More than 1,000 thank yous to hand out.
Did you like list? I'm sorry, I didn't.
No,
watch
I didn't.
That one.
I didn't list all of the subscribers. I just read last year's comments.
Oh, okay.
And gave thank yous for them.
Okay.
So.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
That is pretty cool. That is pretty big.
It's fun watching every day. Like, oh, it went up 10. Oh, it went up 5. Oh, it went down 1. Oh, it went up 3. You know, just watching subscribers going up, and I guess it's just keep making content.
You're actually, as of right now, you're actually at 1,007.
There you go.
So that actually is a nice little segue into another thing that I want to mention.
Okay.
Is that we are attempting to put measures forth to have more community interaction.
Right.
So, like this week, we're going to follow up with that question, which we'll get into momentarily. But we would also, and we'll come back to this later on, I'm sure. But we also want more of that. So, ask questions, throw ideas out there, topics of interest related to Dungeons and Dragons that we can discuss, and that would be fun to talk about. I feel like this is really putting a barricade between us and the viewers now.
Here you go.
Down it goes. Okay. So anyway, so yes, 1,000 subscribers. Congratulations.
Thank you. We're looking at some sponsors, possibly. It doesn't necessarily have to be monetary. Just kind of letting us have our video in somewhere on your platform.
Yeah. Basically, what we want to try. We want to grow the following a bit. We're getting, obviously we got like, what, 11 views right now?
Probably 12, because we looked it up again.
12, because we use count as a view as well. So, it's just starting from scratch. But people are enjoying it. I enjoyed it, and the fellow who commented, whose name I don't know, but whose
Jesse.
screen name. Oh, Jesse, yeah. Jess is spazzing out his screen name. It's awesome. Anyways. We would love more of that. So one thing that we're thinking of doing, and I'll just say this and then we should probably get into it. But what we're thinking of doing is actually going for a sponsor, because why not? What if we got to lose? But the idea would be that it would be a free sponsorship, meaning you would get, we would push your product, we would talk about it, say what we like about it, presumably it'd be something that we like, but we would put your product forward at no cost to you. All we would ask in response is that you share that week's podcast, or that month's, whatever it is, that episode's podcast of this show on your platform. And that's it. So, just give it a shot. We're gonna reach out and just try some. But if you guys have any ideas or know somebody who would be interested in that, or if you yourself are someone who might be interested in that, let us know. It's another thing we're looking at. announcements?
That pretty much covers them all.
I think so.
All right.
That's what I wrote down. So yeah. So this. Or did you want to mention that?
We can mention it after.
So foreshadowing.
Yes.
All right, let's get into this.
Dun,
Do you
dun,
want me to
dun.
read the exact comment?
Yeah, go ahead.
So word for word, our wonderful viewer Jess is spazzing out on the topic of subjects to discuss. Said, I'm gonna go to the edge here too, so I don't slouch. Said, mentioned how to create interesting encounters that aren't just straight up combat, which is a completely valid question because it can get as boring as a game of Risk amongst unskilled players if you don't have any variety in combat. Just roll who got higher. Roll.
Yeah.
And that's it.
I think something that gives a encounter interest is a risk other than the obvious.
Death.
Right, that's the obvious. Like if you're fighting.
That's why I got it so fast.
Yeah,
'cause
exactly.
It was obvious.
Exactly. So if you had something to lose, like maybe you are delivering somebody somewhere that can't defend themselves, or maybe you're taking treasure from one place to another. So there's that aspect of loss that's more than just you, and you not being in the party anymore, and then having to roll up a new character, which.
Think about how many encounters are set up in any campaign that you've read or made where the enemies have some goal that they're trying to achieve other than just kill your party. You know, usually they aren't just, I mean, unless it's something like they are going to the hideout of the goblin soldiers, and the goblin scouts are told, A, kill anybody that moves who's not a goblin, then yeah, that's all they're doing. But usually there's something else, like they're trying to rob you and you attack as self-defense, then it becomes a battle, or they're defending treasure, or they're maybe not even trying to kill you, maybe they're trying to capture you.
Right.
So flip those scripts. You know, what your party can't just be told, like, hey, here's how you complete this campaign, kill everything in sight. So think about what your party would want to achieve that may necessitate a fight, but I actually think that the most interesting encounters are the ones that didn't have to be. Like, you are trying to sneak through a hideout,
Right.
and you fail, and then they're onto you.
Right.
You know?
Right.
But sometimes the encounter that doesn't result in combat is just as invigorating.
Yeah.
Like,
absolutely.
we snuck past the monster and we didn't have to do anything.
Yeah.
Like, that's an achievement.
And the same could be said about like negotiation and whatnot. Like if you come up to a guard, instead of slaying the guard to get through, maybe negotiating your way through. I haven't had much experience in that, but I'm sure it exists somewhere out.
Well, yes, he does. Yes, he does. So, actually, that brings up a good question. Maybe what Jesse is referring to, I guess, is he? Do you think he's saying? Do you think the question is, how do you have a combat that's more interesting than just rolling back and forth, or an encounter? Because an encounter can be anything. An encounter can be, you just met the shoe merchant who says somebody has been stealing his soul.
I am very proud of you, Joe. I'm very proud of you. Indeed.
Campaign.
Please, sir, they're stealing my soul. A necromancer.
I think that making interesting encounters is actually a much easier task than making combat that doesn't solely involve rolling back and forth. And I think we were kind of talking about encounters. I think the question is directed strictly to combat. Okay.
Well, in that case, I'm gonna take us to the campaign, the one shot I wrote. The Broken Vow. Do you remember that one?
I do remember the Broken Vow. Yeah, that was a good one.
Okay, so basically what happens, and I might have this recorded on my channel. I don't think
I think
so.
we streamed it.
And then the thunderstorm happened.
Oh yeah, in real life. There was
Right, yeah,
okay.
so I had to shut off
So
the
it's
computer.
actually not on your channel.
No, the opening is, but this story actually never aired. So what happens is the heroes find a count, and he's got his son with him. And the count doesn't want to give up his son to a deity who he promised he would give his son to. That's a badly formed sentence, but you get the idea. So what he does is he runs away. And we had a encounter which was kind of combat based, where it was a chase. And
Oh yes, yeah.
so
We were on horses and like a carriage and.
right. The Baron was on in a stagecoach with his son, and they were riding off into the night. And the heroes had to jump on horses and chase after them, and they would be firing arrows or casting spells as this happened. And every round that passed, the Baron got closer and closer to the docks where he was going to put his son on a boat and send him far away, and the heroes would have to figure out what to do after that.
So the goal here wasn't just to like annihilate; it was to stop something from happening.
Right. And though there were combat elements, I don't think there was necessarily a...
Well, I was one of your players for this, and I don't remember thinking like, okay, I must kill this enemy. I was thinking like, I must stop this from happening, or
Right.
We lose the campaign. We missed the whole goal.
Right.
But I think that a good way to kind of sum that up is that you added environment.
Right.
You added like something else to the combat besides, here's a dude with a sword. He's going to hit you very hard. Your job is to hit him harder. That's like combat. That's just you and the enemies in a ring. That's like a Fight Club combat.
Right.
And that's actually very rarely what would happen. You can add environment as simply as, oh, now you're on a moving horse. You're on a carriage, like what you did.
Right.
And if this doesn't end by the time you get to the docks, this is going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Or, it can be as simple as when you lay out your map, give the characters some obstacles. Put some trees down, put some difficult terrain, make different levels, things that can be hidden behind. You got some characters who can, turn invisible. That adds a whole thing. That may be another thing right there. Characters, players, you can add. What's the word?
Environment?
You can add
Variables?
variable. You can add variance to combat encounters because you don't have to just hack and slash.
Right.
And I actually really like that as a DM,
Mm-hmm.
when my players take the initiative to be like, I'm going to think outside. I'm going to do something other than just hit with my sword again. I'm going to try to trip the guy.
Right.
And then grapple.
Mm-hmm.
Or I'm going to use this spell to make... Just spells alone.
Yeah.
Like, there's all sorts of what you got, like
Mm-hmm.
the duplicate spell, which the name escapes me right now. Mirror image of yourself.
Right, yeah.
Whatever it is.
Yeah, mirror image is what it's called, I'm pretty sure.
Mirror image is a spell. That
Right.
might be anyway, but you're like, tricking him.
Minor illusion, is that what you're talking about?
No.
There's
it
a
is.
bunch of illusion spells, is what he's
Yeah, there's-
saying though. Like if
False
you're
light.
hiding, maybe cast a spell that shows you over there,
Yeah.
and then the
Yeah.
enemy runs that way, and then you can
There's a spell for that.
hit him in the back or
Go
something.
ahead, keep going. I'm just going to look up the spell because I'm drawing.
Another thing, going back to the chase scene, is that spread out our heroes, because as they traveled, like, trees would fall into the road, so they would have to make animal handling checks to jump over the trees, and some of the heroes didn't make it. And
Mm-hmm.
so they fell off their horses. So that spread out our players. So the combat, once it became combat, because the stagecoach did get stopped, all the heroes were separated, so they had to regroup before they could fight in their full strength, which was rather dire because a owl bear jumped out of the woods and knocked over the carriage, and then started attacking. It was your character, wasn't it? That was furthest ahead, like right up against the.
I'm ashamed to admit that I can't remember.
Okay, I'm pretty sure because you turned around and then the owl bear ripped your horse in half. I remember that. So.
You think I would remember that? I actually can't remember what race I was in.
You were a dwarf sorcerer.
I was a dwarf?
Yep.
Never played a dwarf.
Yeah.
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 You must have been one.
You were a wild mage.
No. I know. No. He wasn't a dwarf. He was an elf.
Was he?
Yeah.
Oh, he was a drow.
He was a. He was an elf something.
Yeah, he was a dark elf, a drow, and that's
With an
right.
Irish
that's
accent.
Right. The Irish accent is what made me think it was a dwarf because I'm racist like that apparently.
Dwarves are Scottish.
Aye, but it's close enough. If you sail across, they'll all shake hands and then kill the English together.
But then when you get over there, you just find a bunch of gnomes.
Aye.
All the gnomes talk like this. The dwarves are all Scottish. I can't do
Right.
Scottish. I can't do Scottish.
You just have to say Scotland.
Scotland.
There you go.
There you go. You all talk. The dwarves are all Scottish.
Something
We
like
love you,
that.
Scotland.
Sorry, Scotland, for
We're all
ruining
dwarfs.
things. And Irish, I apologize for calling you Scots. You are not Scots. I know this. And I
We're
love both of
cool.
your countries.
Yes, I would love to see both your countries.
Another thing that can make the environment of a combat interesting is making it super hazardous.
Yeah, like quicksand and stuff, for as a small example.
Quicksand, or maybe it's on a ledge.
Well, there also is something in, I think it's in the Dungeon Master's Guide, layer actions.
Okay. Yeah, yeah.
It's like a separate turn that happens in combat. So like all your players have turns, and then the environment has a turn.
Right.
And something changes, like there's an earthquake or a tree, lightning strikes and a tree falls down, and that's a new obstacle. Things like that can happen. So yeah, environment. I think that's a good one.
Yeah.
Like, what other ways? I have one.
Okay, well, let's
yeah.
hear yours.
Okay, so besides adding environment or environmental elements to make combat more interesting, you can also change the. Oh, what's the word I'm looking for? Like give the encounter stages.
Mm-hmm.
Like when you reach a certain level, when you've eliminated a certain hit point amount, or when your players have from the main enemy, then change the game a little bit. Now he gets enraged and he's realizes that, oh shoot, it's actually something that can enrage and add damage that way, and it starts being more reckless. Or maybe more enemies come in. You know, keep your players having to pay attention, because the thing you want to avoid is the player being like, okay, I attack with my sword. 18. I don't actually know what I rolled. That's a success, okay, and 7 damage. And then they have to wait for 4 other people to do their thing to do exactly what they just did again. Yeah, so they have make sure they have to pay attention so that the action might not be, or the best choice might not be swing the sword again. It may be, okay, I swing the sword, oh wait, no I can't because I just got hit by a tree, or something like that.
Right.
So make changes like that, but the combat being in stages, I think, is really fun.
Mm-hmm.
As you reach the climax of that combat encounter, something changes. You suddenly revealed that your enemy is a sorcerer, or there's more enemies that come in, or maybe the enemy actually surrenders. Maybe the combat doesn't end with him dying. Maybe he's like, okay, no, I give up. And then there's an interrogation that happens, and the encounter totally changes.
And there's a huge movement in DMs. I've been researching this kind of thing on combat doesn't mean to the death every single time you do it. Like dueling and surrender and retreat are all aspects of combat, and the fighter that fights to the end every single time is the fighter that doesn't fight very often because he dies eventually. Mm-hmm. So retreat is definitely something,
and it's a huge story developer.
Oh, absolutely.
To have like well, we would go back to Horde of the Dragon Queen.
Yep.
The first, we should do a review. We should finish Horde of the Dragon Queen and then do a review of it.
Yeah.
I think that would be really cool. We've only got a couple chapters left to do in it.
Oh, cool. Sweet. Yeah.
But anyways, for those of you, I guess small spoiler effect here, but not spoiling a lot. Early on in the campaign, there's a character that's a blue half-dragon, actually, Cyan Wrath. And he is a character that, unless you get very lucky as a level 1 player, you'll probably not beat him the first time, and you'll have to encounter him again later. And the book actually leaves it open after that second encounter. It doesn't say, when Cyan Wrath is killed, do this, or if Cyan Wrath is not killed, do this. It's just like, encounter Cyan Wrath here, and they don't say anything. And in our campaign, he was not defeated. So there was actually a third encounter.
Yep.
And taking an enemy, it doesn't even have to be like a huge character. You can just be like, oh, and this bounty hunter is after your head because you said this thing against his whatever person who's paying him. And to actually have him like, oh shoot, I'm not going to make it out of this, and to have him escape, then there's a whole new element to your story. And the combat can be so much more interesting because it actually didn't conclude. And you bring that guy in later and you're like, oh, now your players like have a beef.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, definitely.
Instead of just, there's a threat, must eliminate threat.
What was great about that combat is we got knocked unconscious. And not all of us did, because one of us turned invisible.
All but one, yeah.
Yeah.
Because people kept not showing up for our games, so the party got smaller and smaller.
And we're like, level 2's like, yay!
we will rule this.
So there were 3 heroes up against this like big bad and 2 of his lackeys. So anyway, the 2 of us that weren't invisible got knocked out. And so we got dragged into a place where we were going to be fed to a monster. Well, chaos ensued, and what happened was the monster got a hold of both my character and Cyan Wrath. So it stopped being combat, it became a duel of the wits on who could convince this monster
to kill the other one.
To kill the other one. And
that was probably my favorite game of the entire campaign so far.
Yeah.
And Horde of the Dragon Queen hasn't been my favorite campaign, so my favorite moments have been when you guys went totally off script. We just had to make it up. This is great, because the script is kind of...
Speaking of which, I painted Bastion, which I will not bore you with, but I will bring him out and show him to you after this. But
can I just grab him?
Yeah. He's up next to Fondly.
Oh my goodness, his hair is so yellow.
Yep. So basically, turning a combat into something where you have to beg for your life or use a different ability than how well you can swing a sword or shoot an arrow. If you've got a wordsmith, make the combat about that. A lot of DMing is looking at your characters and saying, this character is good at this character is good at this character is good at this, and making sure that all of those characters get a chance to shine using those abilities. Because, you might have a rogue who doesn't have a lot of hit points and doesn't have a lot of ammo or something. They've specialized in the deception and pickpocketing skills instead of the being able to shoot the best bow or cast spells. So giving them a chance to do something other than fight, like...
So that when a combat comes along, they're not like, no,
okay, well I'm going to stand back here and throw spears.
Yeah.
I've been playing a video game called Shadow Tactics, and it's all about ninjas and stuff. But one of the things about that game is it's a stealth game, obviously. But interacting with the environment, to use the environment against enemies, opposed to, using your weapons against enemies. Like,
Sorry, I just got distracted.
it's alright.
I saw the poster behind me in the screen and wondered what it was.
It's Kylo.
It's Kylo Ren.
Like, maybe there's a construction crane that's holding a few logs up. If you're a rogue character who can't shoot very well or can't get close enough to stab somebody, he can sneak off and cut the rope, drop logs on the enemies, and so that's taking a combat and giving it an element where someone who isn't good at combat or spellcasting or whatever, and giving them something to do, so then the fighters who probably chose their class so they would
So
fight.
they could fight. Yeah.
Right. Well, can do what they can do, and the rogue or the bard can do something that they're good at.
And that ties into using the environment, too.
Right, exactly.
And not only using the environment just to create things you have to work around, but also, like, you could use the environment as an attack.
Right.
As a way of defeating the enemy.
Exactly. If you're fighting on a bridge, take a look at that bridge. See if it's weak in any area. And maybe retreat off the bridge and collapse it with all your enemies on it.
Yeah.
You know, just... It's...
Thinking... I think that it comes back to a thing we said earlier, that making combats more interesting is on the DM and the player.
Absolutely.
And the player, yeah.
And DM, if you see your players trying to do something that isn't in the book...
Oh my gosh. That's a good thing.
Right.
That is what you were going to say, right?
Right, yeah, exactly, exactly. It's like, the book, what you planned is wonderful. But if someone's trying to do something really cool, don't go, oh, I didn't plan that. No, you can't do that.
Right. Which I am very guilty of doing that.
I've done it
I hate
too.
it when I do it, but sometimes I just panic. I'm like, I can't think of anything, so no! Don't do that.
Now, as a DM, if you haven't planned something out and you don't know how it would work and something like that, do not be afraid to tell your players, I haven't figured out how that would work. Can you guys help me figure out how that would work, or give me some time so I can think about how this works? You know, there's chips over there, go eat some chips while I figure out how to do this.
Do you mean, like, in the scenario with the logs, if your rogue says, oh, I cut the rope so that the logs will drop, and you go, oh, how much damage would that be?
Right. Or, like, the rogue says that he wants to cut the rope and hold on to it, so he goes flying up.
Jack Sparrow style?
Yeah, kind of thing like that. It's not something that you've planned. You haven't planned, like, over here behind this wall.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know what they're going to see. You know.
Great. If you don't know what should happen, that's a great time for an ability check.
Yeah.
Acrobatics check, natural 20. You, Jack Sparrow, that boom, you're right up there, and it's awesome.
And so yeah, that's my advice on.
I have another idea.
Okay, well that's good because I'm out. Go ahead.
Okay, I was writing down things as a way. Again, specifically speaking on combat encounters, because encounters are a whole other subject. Combat encounters. Make an enemy that has to be killed, but can't be killed just by reducing his damage.
Mm-hmm.
Make an enemy that has something else going on. Make an enemy that maybe recovers health every turn, such that he can't be defeated until that ability is taken away. Maybe he's feeding off of an ancient artifact, an orb in the middle of the room that you see is somehow feeding energy towards him, and his wounds keep healing up, and the players are like, oh, we need to take out that orb first.
Right.
Or the enemy is an illusion. And so they're like fighting it, and you see nothing is happening, and then someone's like, wait a minute, let me do a investigation
Yeah.
and perception check, and you realize he's not actually there. You're fighting shadows. Something like that, you know. Don't. I would actually say that the least common combat encounter should be a just beat to death situation. There should always be something else that's going on. And granted, some scenarios you're in and you're like, your job is to assassinate and if it's botched a little bit, then it's like, well, gotta finish the job, so here we go. But yeah, but yeah, make it's a good concrete way. Take an enemy that can't be killed by straight damage. Something else has to happen first, or at the same time.
Right.
Can I mention Critical Role on this? Because there's a great example.
Sure. I will not know what he's talking about because I don't watch Matt Mercer's game.
Okay. Well, I love watching Critical Role. I'm not sure I should mention this. Okay, I'll just put this out here right now. The next thing that I'm going to say is a huge spoiler to Critical Role's Campaign 1. The very end of it, their final arc, this is how it ends. So, if you have not seen it and would like to, skip ahead.
I'll leave the number
to the number that Matt puts in here. Like, yeah. So, here we go. In Campaign 1, the characters must fight Vecna, which is in the book, right? It's a classic D&D character. But the way that Matt Mercer has, and I actually don't know if this is what's in the book, is how to defeat Vecna, but in order to defeat Vecna, they had to get these, there were 4 other quests that they had to do to get these,
gauntlets?
No, okay, for those of you who have watched, I'm so sorry that I can't remember what these sticks were called. But they were like big old spikes.
Okay.
They're like big pylon spike things. And what they had to do was basically they couldn't do any damage or do any significant damage or do damage that would actually allow them to win unless they attacked with one of these spikes because it made a gap in like the ethereal armor that Vecna had. Then they could strike and then damage was done.
Okay.
So like there was a whole nother element. They couldn't just go in and start hacking and slashing because they had to have these other elements in there as well. It's kind of like, have you played, this is a better example, have you played, no, this is another example. Matt Mercer, that's awesome. You're a good example. I'm sure you're watching. But this is where we can cut to. So like you can watch now and no
I'll write down what
spoilers.
time it is. Okay, go ahead.
There we go. In Zelda Breath of the Wild.
Okay, I haven't played that, but
Oh,
keep
okay,
going.
I'm sorry. That's a
No.
game.
Keep going.
It was a wonderful game, wonderful game. Okay, but unlike all of the previous Zelda games, where you do a dungeon, a temple, and then you do the next one, and then you do the next one, and then you do the next one, and it all comes together so that you can get to the final boss, but you have to have done these 4.
Right.
In Breath of the Wild, you don't have to do that. You could actually go right into the castle, right up to Ganon, and attempt to kill him with 3 hearts and a stick. You could do it. You would die. I'm sure somebody out there has done it and not died. I'm sure, but there's nothing stopping you from just going into the castle, except for the fact that there are huge enemies there that will make your life end. So so throughout the game, the goal of the game is to gear yourself up and also harness the power of these things called guardians, ancient guardian.
Is it the seal kind of thing?
No, I forgot what they're called. Dang it, there's 4 of them.
Okay.
But each one actually does a huge amount of damage to Ganon
Okay.
if you go after having done those quests.
Right.
But you don't have to. Like, you could do just 2. You could do just 3.
Right.
But it all changes the encounter when you go to Ganon.
Right. It's like Mass Effect 2. If you don't do the bonus missions of each of your party members, then they will die in the last battle. Automatically. So.
Or the Ender Dragon in Minecraft,
Mm-hmm.
which you have played.
Yep.
So
Yep.
you could just, as soon as you're able, go to the end and try to kill the dragon. But it's really difficult because you have to take out the crystals, which are blocked by cages, which you really can't get to without an arrow, which is really hard to do if you're not armored well, because the dragon's trying to kill you all the time. So the Ender Dragon is a good example. You can't just kill the Ender Dragon. He's got all those orbs.
Yeah. Yeah.
All that to say, make an enemy that can't be defeated just by draining its HP.
Right.
That's an idea.
And just one small thing, it's very simple. Change one aspect of a monster in the monster manual.
Ah, that's, yeah.
I
That
mean,
went down.
if you've got like orcs coming, well, let's just say they poison their blades.
Why not say it?
You know,
Let's just say it. They
poison their blades. Or maybe they worship a fire god and their blades cause burning damage. You know.
I'm writing these down because these are good ideas.
So as far as like, and I think that's pretty much homebrew at its core, is taking something that already exists and changing one small aspect of it, and then calling it something else. Like,
Keeps your players on their toes too.
Right.
Especially if they know the monsters.
Right. I have my brother and I are playing D&D off and on for many years, even before we owned these books. But he's going into a desert where there are what we call sphinxes, which are, they have the torso and head and arms of a human, and then the bodies of a cat. And so what I would do is I would go in...
Not exactly a sphinx, but...
Right. Not exactly, but I would just take centaurs and change their attacks from bludgeoning to slashing, and maybe a couple of their weapons into more stylized desert-themed kind of weapons.
Or,
go ahead.
well, I was going to say, or it could be just going along with that idea. You could make an enemy that's maybe a more typical enemy, like a hobgoblin. Give it a magic weapon.
Yep.
Like you're saying, but a magic weapon that they could take.
Right.
So not only are these like just poison-tipped things, but maybe it's a weapon that like we thought this was going to be a really easy encounter because it was just a hobgoblin and a few goblins, but he's got this really sick magic weapon.
Right.
This is a whole new game now.
Right.
And maybe in the encounter, sorry, I got
That's
excited. Maybe in the encounter, they realize that Hobgoblin realizes what's going on and he's going down, so he's trying to get rid of the sword so that nobody can use it. Then the combat has a whole new game aspect because they're like, no, we want the sword.
Because you want to restrain him, you don't want him to throw it away into the pit.
Yeah, so like then, or maybe he does throw it into the pit, or just throws it further away, or throws it into the river, and then you're like, we're going in the river, and then there's a fight in the river, and you have to do...
And then crocodiles are in the river.
There you go! This is a wonderful game.
Yes, it is. Another aspect, which is probably a totally different video.
No, let's just do it. Just kidding.
Is when your players are making characters, change up the race a little, just a little. For the Christmas thing that I'm planning, the Christmas campaign, I've got a gingerbread man that I've designed.
Who is not in the Monster Manual.
He's not in the Monster Manual, he's not a playable race, but I did go online and find Warforged as a race. And since gingerbread men would be forged, in a sense, I just gave them the same traits, but I made him super, not resilient, the opposite of resilient, vulnerable
Brittle?
to water.
Crunchy?
So water would dissolve him.
Oh, okay.
And so for some...
Or milk?
Right, exactly.
Milk being even worse than water?
Yep, because then, like, forest animals would come out and eat it.
I just had a picture of an anvil, and then, like, some smithy there with a candy cane and a gingerbread on there. Forging a gingerbread.
Basically, I got the idea from Shrek 2, I'll be honest.
Yeah.
But, anyway.
That was a disturbing scene.
It was. Anyway.
I'm gonna have nightmares now.
That's how I like to end a video. So thank you so much for watching. Do you have anything else on making combat?
We had one.
Oh,
no. Well, you don't have.
It was just kind of a shout out.
The thing, yeah. Do your shout out, and then I want to say one more thing, if that's okay.
Just one more thank you to our first contributor of financial-ish
money
kind of thing.
Your first contributor.
Yeah. When I was doing my thank you video, one of you guys said, "Hey, I'd like to contribute. Here, what's your Steam account?" And
Patreon.
And yeah, I'll get there.
Oh, sorry.
And so he got me a couple games, and I'm looking forward to playing them and maybe even making a video of them. I do have a Patreon. I'll leave a link in the description. It probably will pop up here or something.
Do I need to duck?
No. Okay, it's right there. And I'm gonna be revisiting it, making sure it's representing what my channel is now, because when I made it, I was just like, okay, well, I have a channel, let's throw something up together. No, I'll be getting to it and making sure that it's something that you feel like contributing to, opposed to random. So, yeah, that's my plug for money.
There better still be something here.
And, let me see.
To reiterate,
yep,
we would like. I'm gonna say this. To reiterate, we love having interactions. So talk to us, comment right now, even if you just like, hey, talk about dragons.
I'll
talk about dragons.
His first homebrewed campaign was all about dragons.
Yep, just an unearthly sized dragon.
Super sick.
Yeah. Anyway, what I'm saying is that what would you like to talk about? Ask some questions. We'll think of content on our own, but we'd really love to respond to things that you guys are saying. Even if it's something that wouldn't be a whole episode, just somebody asking just something simple like what's your favorite race, favorite character, yeah. Just something like that. Just because we love talking Dungeons and Dragons, and we'll just talk to ourselves, but we love to know that we can interact with people too.
Right.
So comment it up.
Yep. And until next time, this is Hogwash and Joe signing out. Catch you later.